Short story by Paul McCann entitled Bobo and the Flight Down Under. Bobo was making his way through the snow to the corner shop for a bottle of milk when he saw Charlie in front of him, kind of slipping and sliding along the footpath like a young child at play on his way to the sweet shop. Bobo called out a friendly hello, and Charlie turned around, nearly losing his balance on the icy footpath. He burst out laughing as Charlie's frantic antics to keep to his feet. Then he made his way over to Charlie, who seemed a little embarrassed. He rolled up a snowball and threw it at Charlie, hitting him on the shoulder. "Well, Charlie, isn't it a lovely day?" Charlie responded.
"It's freezing, Bobo."
"What is you out in the cold then?" Bobo asked.
"I'm picking up a parcel at the post office from my cousin in Australia,"
Charlie replied with pride and confidence. "You never told me you had a cousin in Australia," Bobo said, and Charlie smiled like a cat over a bowl of milk.
"His name is Dano, and every year he sends me a parcel with a few things for Christmas."
Bobo noticed Charlie was enjoying the fact that his secret was now out in the open and said, "I never told you, Charlie, but I have 2 pen friends in Australia, and they've been sending me parcels for years." The smile ran away from Charlie's face like a squirrel with a nut up a tree in the winter chill.
Like Bobo, I never told you about my cousin because I never thought you'd be interested,"
said Charlie, who began to look down to the ground and fumble with his fingers. Bobo became aware of a kind of a guilt in Charlie's voice, and he said, "The only reason you never told me, Charlie, was because you didn't want to share your sweets and lollies from Australia." Bobo kind of nudged Charlie on his right shoulder, which made him lose his balance. But Bobo reached out and steadied him before he fell.
"Thanks for that, Bobo. I nearly went for a sixer there, and that's not hard. It is all at all. I never told you about my cousin because I have a big surprise to tell you, just as soon as Dano makes the final arrangements."
Bobo looked closely into Charlie's face. "So tell me, Charlie, what exactly are these final arrangements?"
"I can't say it, Bobo."
Bobo looked a little more interested and said, "So, how soon will you know when you're able to tell me, Charlie?"
"Maybe today when I open the parcel, or maybe not. Who knows? I'm not sure when Dano can book the tickets."
"What tickets, Charlie?" said Bobo, who was now seeing a break in the clouds.
"Did I say tickets?"
Charlie said, backpedaling and looking for somewhere else to go. Bobo put his arm around Charlie and replied, "Yes, Charlie, you did. And what tickets are you talking about?" Charlie looked like a skater on thin ice and started waving his arms up in the air.
Well, okay, then, Bobo, I'll tell you, but I wanted it to be a surprise at Christmas. My cousin Donald's invited me over for a few weeks for a holiday in Australia, and he's offered to buy 2 tickets, one for me and the other for a friend. And I was going to ask if you wanted to go, Bobo. The only thing he's waiting for is my yes or no."
Bobo said, "Well, Charlie,
"What are you waiting for? Tell him, yeah, we're coming."
Charlie looked a little worried and replied,
Well, see, the thing is, Bobo, I've never been away from home for more than a weekend."
"Grow up, Charlie. You're nearly 20 years of age and you're at the point of your life when you have to spread your wings and fly. Leave the nest for longer times and fly to freedom of far-off places."
I'm not sure if I can, Bobo."
Bobo laughed. And he gave Charlie a big pat on the back, nearly knocking him off his feet again, and said, Australia's where we should go at this time of year, Charlie. It's sunny and warm and not frosty and cold. Charlie looked unsure.
I don't know, Bobo. I've got freckles and my skin can't take the sun.
Bobo looked up at the sky and replied, Oh, God, give me patience. Charlie, I'll get you some sun cream to protect your skin. Charlie was still not happy and said,
I've heard there's these huge rats that hop around all over the place down there, and there are things that wriggle and crawl like spiders and snakes.
Bobo grabbed Charlie's knee with his hand and said, Oh, look, there's a spider on your knee. Charlie screamed, Ah! And jumped back in the air and ended up on slipping and hitting his head in the snowy ground. But Bobo bent over and offered Charlie his hand to get him back up on his feet. But Charlie was still too worried, looking for that imaginary spider. I was just kidding, Charlie. There's no spider there, and there's no such things as huge rats. They're called kangaroos. Come on, Charlie. It's an adventure. Let's go. Charlie reached out and took Bobo's hand and got back to his feet and said, Okay then, Bobo. I'll let Donald know that we're coming to Australia for the New Year. Nah, that's more like it, Charlie. We'll have a ball, me and you. And the huge rats and spiders and snakes and all. Charlie screamed again. That's it, Bobo. I'm not going. Yes, we are going, and that's the end of it, Charlie. Tell Dono we're packing our bags for Australia and to send 2 return tickets over.
Oh, okay then, Bobo. I'll let him know,
said Charlie, and Bobo rubbed his hands together. Meanwhile, Charlie, I'm going to get us some sponsors to raise extra spondulics for our trip down under.
Bobo, what are sponsors and spondulics all about?
Bobo said, It's money for jam, Charlie. We're going to become advertising gurus with brand names all over us. We'll have stickers on all our suitcases, local business logos on t-shirts, and money in our pockets. Just leave it to me, Charlie.
Bobo, do you think I could get a sticker that says, Have a chat with Charlie?
Well, I'll see what I can do. Now, as soon as you've word about the tickets, let me know and we'll go. See, you and me, Charlie, off on our adventure to Oz. Weeks had passed as the snow fell thick all over the town. After the jingle bells rung and the decorations were hung and all the Christmas carols were sung, young Charlie and Bobo were standing in the queue at the airport with a suitcase plastered with stickers in each hand. They both wore caps with the name of local businesses on them and scarves with designer logos, all on show and made possible by a brainwave from Bobo. Their new sponsors had gave Bobo and Charlie the extra spondulics they needed for the holiday down under. They were soon on board the big jet aircraft that was ready to take off. The aeroplane thundered down the runway and lifted off the ground into the sky. Bobo was excited and Charlie was terrified. When the seatbelt sign was turned off, Bobo noticed Charlie had his hands joined in prayer and he made a comment. Charlie, if I didn't know better, I'd say you were turning religious. Charlie answered,
Oh God, we're so high, Bobo. Don't let me die going up in the sky on this airplane miles from anywhere.
Bobo replied, Stop worrying for heaven's sake, Charlie. Just sit back and relax. We'll soon be in the land down under. Charlie responded in a worried tone,
Bobo, would you please not say that down under word thing?
Bobo tried not to laugh and said, What are you worried about anyway? Charlie looked out the window of the aircraft and said,
What if those engines on the wings there break down?
Bobo replied, They'll not break down. They test them all before takeoff. Charlie thought for a few moments and said,
What if another plane hits us? Or what if we get hit by a bolt of lightning?
Bobo said, will you just stop worrying? Look, if your number's up, your number's up. And there's nothing anyone can do about it, okay? Just relax, and we'll soon be on the ground. Charlie took a deep breath and said,
well, I suppose you're right, Bobo.
Bobo replied, that's better now. Just settle down. Charlie was quiet for a few minutes, and then he said,
but what if the pilot's number's up?
Bobo looked up in the air and said, Charlie, I'm telling you now, if you don't stop all this and keep quiet, I'll have to ask the frick crew to put you off the plane. Charlie nearly turned blue and he said, I'm
sorry, Bobo, please don't do that. I'm not going to panic anymore. I won't.
Bobo said, right then, no more panic. A few minutes of silence passed and Charlie said,
Bobo, I need to go somewhere to do something.
What do you mean, something somewhere? Speak proper or not at all, said Bobo, and Charlie replied,
I need to visit the men's room.
Bobo replied, you'll have to wait, Charlie.
I can't wait, Bobo.
Bobo called the air hostess and asked where the gents' toilets were. She pointed to the front of the aircraft and then walked off. Bobo said, off you go. I'll see you when you get back, Charlie.
Bobo, I need your help. I think I need to change my trousers,
Charlie said, and Bobo began to give Charlie a hard stare and said, you've got to be kidding me, Charlie. All your clothes are packed away in your suitcase, and you can't get that until the plane's landed.
Please, Bobo, can you do something?
Charlie pleaded. Bobo escorted Charlie to the men's room and told Charlie to stay in there until he returned, and then he went to speak to the cabin crew. Luckily, some of the cabin crew had some spare trousers on board and were more than happy enough to hand them over to help Charlie. Bobo returned to the men's room and handed Charlie an empty rubbish bag and a new set of trousers for Charlie. By the time the plane landed in Sydney, Charlie had gone through all the spare trousers on board. As Bobo and Charlie made their way off the plane to the customs and then to the arrivals area, Charlie said,
you're not going to tell the lads all about what happened, are you, Bobo?
Bobo smiled and he replied, Charlie, what happens in the air stays in the air, okay? Charlie looked relieved and began to be more like himself again. He started hopping on both his feet ahead of Bobo and said,
What am I, Bobo? Tell me, do you know?
Bobo stood there and shook his head. Charlie kept hopping and Bobo said, are you the Easter Bunny?
Don't be silly, Bobo. Can't you see? I'm a kangaroo.
Bobo walked on faster, leaving Charlie behind a little. After a while, he looked back and saw Charlie was still hopping after him. It looked so funny. Bobo had a bit of a laugh. It didn't take them long to collect their suitcases and make their way out through the customs to the arrival section, where hundreds of people waited for family and friends. Bobo stopped there and looked around for a few minutes, and then said, so what does your cousin Donald look like? Charlie replied,
I don't know, Bobo. We only wrote letters. I've never actually seen him before.
Bobo was stunned and said, Charlie, you're having me on, aren't you?
Sorry, Bobo. I never thought. Hang on a minute, and I'll call him.
Suddenly Charlie started to scream out at the top of his voice all over the airport,
Dono, it's me, your cousin Charlie. Can you hear me, Dono?
Everyone began to look at Charlie. Bobo almost had to gag him to keep him quiet before saying with his hand over Charlie's mouth, I need you to listen very carefully to me, Charlie. When I remove my hand from your mouth, you are not to make a sound. Do I make myself clear, Charlie? Nod if you understand, because if I hear one peep out of you, I'll disown you, okay? As he nodded, Bobo slowly removed his hands from Charlie's mouth. he continued. I'm going to have a look around the airport, and while I'm doing that, I want you to say nothing. Stay right by my side and pretend, just for once, you are in control. Suddenly, Charlie began to hop up and down like a kangaroo. Bobo was not impressed, but Charlie was not making a sound. He just kept pointing at something. Then Bobo could see why Charlie was so excited. There was a man standing there in the front of the crowd, and he was holding up a big sign with bold lettering that said, "Welcome to Australia, Charlie and Bobo." Charlie ran over and grabbed the man by the arm, and he said,
"Hello, I'm Charlie. You must be my cousin Dono."
The man gave Charlie a big hug and a slap on the back, and he said,
"G'day, mate. Great you could make it. We've heaps to do, so let's go. What a butler of a holiday we're going to have, mate."
The end.